Good morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the new year. Here we are at the Feed. We've been off for a couple of weeks and a little rusty. I'm just saying.
But our intro didn't freeze this time.
That's right. Our intro didn't freeze.
Apparently
Must be
the
warmer
poltergeist
out. Yeah.
got exercised as we were.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
I think Alex did a smudging and exorcised all of the demons out of fat.
It's that sage. Yeah.
Sage.
It works. All right, and today we have Justin. He's our New Year's guest, one of our favorite guests, and welcome.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, welcome to the new year. We're going to talk a little bit in a bit about healthy New Year's resolutions, which is a very timely topic right now.
Timely topic.
But first, Marty's going to give us some stuff on local events.
Yeah, we have actually a lot of local events coming up. Our last guest of 2018 was Dr. Johanna Ryan from Return to Wellness Natural Medicine. She's actually having an open house this Saturday from 10 to 2. She's located at 11A Hospital Court. So that is the building across from the hospital building. A lot of people call it the Pro Building. She's in the lower level. You can come and meet her, and she has Amy Davis, who's an energy healer. They'll be doing some Reiki sessions. She's also introducing her earthing mat, which she talked a little bit about when she was here. So that's from 10 to 2 this Saturday at Return to Wellness Natural Medicine.
That's it, folks, for the Feed.
And there we go.
We thought the demons were gone.
The
but
demons are
apparently
back.
They're not.
But they're back. But
And
we have
then
full screen.
We have full screen Wonder Groove.
Wonder Groove. That's really cool.
So go on this Saturday to Wonder Groove. They're having, I think it's their third dance party. There's no cover charge. From what I've heard, it's really fun. They spin some good tunes and they get a good crowd. So make sure you show up at Wonder Groove. And then Pat and Alan at the Village Square Booksellers, as usual, are having, they have a lot of things that happen there. They have a lot of authors that come, and there's 2 authors coming this weekend to do readings starting at 1 o'clock. And then there's going to be an open mic poetry session after the two readings. And then get your tickets. Chicago tickets are on sale for performances in March and April. I have a feeling that the tickets will go fast.
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
I think so. This is
every
year it's getting
David
bigger
does
and bigger.
performances, people realize that how much fun it is. So make sure you get your tickets and just go to mainstreetarts.org, order your tickets, and get ready for Chicago.
Yeah, and I saw David down at the town hall just this week. I think they must be starting to build sets and stuff.
I believe they are starting to build sets.
So if you want to help with the production of Chicago, you might want to contact Main Street Arts. If you like, you can be behind the scenes, building sets or helping out with sound
it's a little
or doing
late to be
stuff.
lead, but
Yeah, you probably won't be lead, but it's a good time to get your feet wet. If you wanted to see how a production works, you might want to call David and volunteer.
check it out. Perfect.
Thank you. And Justin, here we are. Welcome to the new year.
Thank you. Yeah, 2019 already.
Just a little plug before we get started. I've been following your regimen of the Chaka tea, the vitamin D3, and the fire tea and the elderberry.
Yeah.
I feel this is the best I've felt. I haven't had anything I should cross. This is like my big jinx. But it's been great. I've had a really good year. It's a lot of people have been not so much in my family, but around me have been sick, and I've managed to avoid all the bad stuff.
Oh, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
and we can go over that protocol briefly because that's a good, for this time of year, there are a lot of bugs flying around, and vitamin D3 is an excellent, really cost-effective supplement, and typically we make vitamin D from exposure to sunlight, but in Vermont, from about mid-October to mid-March, we're not able to make it from the sun, so our levels just go down and down and down. And interestingly, the flu season coincides with the lowest vitamin D levels in the northern population.
So your
like
immune
February
system is like the weakest.
is at its weakest point, so it's most susceptible to the flu. So typically I suggest somewhere around 5,000 to 10,000 units a day of vitamin D, which sound quite high, but typically people's levels are so low that, ideally you would get your blood tested first and see where you're at and try to aim for like 60 to 70 nanograms per milliliter. But absent testing, I'm pretty, I think we're pretty safe to say 5 to 10,000 units a day for your average Vermonter because we haven't been making it for months, and and even though it's called a vitamin, it's one of the fat soluble vitamins. It's really much more of a hormone. It just kind of got named a vitamin in the way it was found, but it's built off of cholesterol, which is also used as the building block for estrogen and testosterone, and all of them are more familiar hormones. And it has many actions in the body, including immune function. And it's also, as far as for bone health, it's really important for helping with calcium utilization and getting it actually to the bones. So anyone that's supplementing calcium, it really is a good idea to also be supplementing the vitamin D to make sure that it's getting into your bones rather than ending up as a bladder stone or something else that you don't want.
And outside of sunlight, what other sources are? I mean, you can take supplements, but outside of sunlight, are there food sources?
Food sources, you're a little bit in eggs, more so in liver. Liver is an excellent thing, but a lot of people
don't eat. You don't eat.
Most people don't eat enough.
I
liver.
would challenge you to find liver in the store. I think maybe frozen, but
yeah, and I mean, like I get my liver from Walpole Valley Farms. Like,
okay.
It's ideal not to get commercial liver, as it's not going to be as nutritious. But the thing is, because not a lot of people eat it, it's extremely cheap. Even the grass-fed version is like maybe $3.50 a pound or $3 a pound. So, and you don't need to eat anywhere near a pound a day or anything. Just a couple, just a couple bites a day is excellent. I mean liver, in addition to vitamin D, is also providing vitamin A. It's a really rich source of very bioavailable iron.
How do you prepare it? Do you do the traditional liver and onions, or do you have a secret?
I like that method, but my favorite lately isn't going to appeal to most people. Is to just blend it with some cream into like a smoothie type of thing or a pudding, and then I just eat a couple spoonfuls every day. So basically, what I'm saying is there are the food sources of vitamin D are not. There aren't that many foods that people commonly eat that have a lot, and like cod liver oil, which is of course another supplement, has some, but not even close to these higher.
And that's
amounts.
Another thing that people have sort of have this prejudice against.
Right, I mean, because that used to be, 80, 100
cod.
years ago, that was kind of like, the grandmother's remedy.
Everyone
got their spoonful of cod liver oil.
Exactly.
So that's where like the D3 supplements are virtually tasteless. So there's no gag factor there. They're actually, they make them from lanolin, from sheep's wool.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's what they produce.
So it's good for your skin too.
And then
It is.
And then they basically just dissolve it into like a carrier oil, like olive oil or sunflower oil. And I suggest taking it in like the liquid form, just because it's easier to get a higher dose. Like some of the capsule products on the market are only like 1,000 IUs per capsule, and there's no need to have to take like 10 capsules. When you could just take a couple drops of a liquid product, or find a more concentrated capsule if you prefer the capsule.
The capsules
That's so
I have
funny.
the capsules just because that's what I found at the co-op, and they're tiny. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, and
I
if
take
they're
5, they're really tiny.
And
So
they're tiny.
Yeah.
Okay, so and so I mean it's fine as long as but I've also seen some that are like
Oh, if
this
they were
big,
like-
and it's
they were-
only 1,000, and you're like, well, that's all filler then. If it's a little tiny
They're
caplet.
teeny tiny, and in 5 of them, I just take them all at once. But you're right, if they're normal like fish oil size, that big, then yeah, I agree with you.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, and as far as for the most part, it's all the same thing, brand to brand. It's just look out for fillers and that kind of thing. And then I mean the other two things that you mentioned, taking the fire cider and the.
I've been doing that sort of as needed.
Yeah, and that's, I would say, the best way to do it, because it's basically fire cider is onions and garlic and horseradish and all these spicy foods that are rich in sulfur compounds, and they, like garlic breath, you get that, the constituents get into the bloodstream and then get excreted out through the lungs. So any sort of funk that's going on in the lungs, those constituents are getting right in contact with them. So that's part of where that can be so effective. So, better immune system health is one part of surviving the winter. And then, a side benefit of the vitamin D is better mood health as well. And, these dark days tend to lead to, poorer mood as well. And like the incidence of seasonal affective disorder in Vermont is like 10 times that of Florida, which of course makes sense, because it's very sunlight related. And so vitamin D can help with that. Another thing that can help with that a lot of people make New Year's resolutions about is exercise. I would say that's like a big one.
The
Like
big one.
get a gym membership for
Mhm.
for New Year's and getting the blood flowing and releases. It's, a lot of the time we thought that like the runner's high was endorphins.
Yeah.
But now there's thinking it's more related to the endocannabinoid system. But either way, there's a strong increase in mood that can be really helpful this time of year. 3 or 4 years ago, I think, was one of those really long, hard winters, and for me, running was really integral to keeping my mood positive that winter, because it was just like it was a slog, and I mean, it doesn't have to be running, and I feel like with winter here, it's good to find some outdoor activity that you enjoy, whether that's snowshoeing or ice fishing or skating or because if you don't get out in it and find something you like, it really is a slog.
Yeah, and we're getting right to that period, that slog. Yeah, we've gone through the holidays now, and it's sort of like, well, now we have to wait till spring.
Well, and this is, I think, a typical, right, because like at least with the holidays, we have the holidays to look forward to.
Yeah.
And then now, even though the light's getting a little bit
Days are
longer every
getting
day,
longer.
it's still pretty minimal. And it's like, okay, what's the next milestone? Oh, like spring, like,
Groundhog Day.
and even April can be really lousy.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's like it's looking at a long time ahead. So, I think, trying to just embrace it, because otherwise, it will be
Yeah.
just kind of course, this year with like not very much snow, a lot of the typical wintertime things you can't even do. So,
Yeah. There's not too many
I was gonna
cross-country
say, I
skiers.
don't think that ponds or things have even really frozen over to be able to skate, or not frozen.
Well,
They've
it's
started
like-
to, but I
there's
think
been
it's
like down at the
freezing and
Retreat
thawing.
Meadows, they had some really good skating for a while, but they also had a couple people go through. And, I mean, it's been, it's definitely, not super great ice conditions. I don't think that place up in Lake Maury that has that big skating circle, I
Yeah,
don't think
yeah.
that's opened yet.
Yeah, I haven't seen anybody. I have a friend who lives up there, and she usually posts when it's. And
Right.
I haven't seen anything about
Well,
it.
because it's like we get 2 days of cold, and then we get
Yeah,
another
we
big
get like
one.
today.
There's
It's
a lot
going
of
to be.
rain.
It's raining today, and then tomorrow it's
And
going to be
40, right?
freezing. Yeah.
I think so, and then by the end of the week, wind chill factors and
Yeah.
below zero. I just had a question when you were talking about the ingredients in fire cider.
Yeah.
So if could someone also get the same fire cider effects if they just had a lot of those ingredients in their diet on a regular level? Would that be?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to be now, like with some of them, like with garlic, it's got different properties raw than cooked. Like, and onions too. When we're cooking them, we're reducing that fieriness of them.
Okay.
So the interesting thing with the fire cider is that. But by soaking it in the vinegar, it takes away some of the bite. Like it's not as hard on the digestion.
Yeah.
It's like just straight raw garlic, but it still maintains a lot of those constituents.
Okay.
So
So
someone
they're-
who eats like a lot of raw onion and garlic is going to get more of that similar benefit than the cooked. Not that the cooked form doesn't have
Yeah.
good benefits as well, but it's going to have less of that antimicrobial because
Okay.
those sulfur constituents
Okay.
produce a lot of that effect.
Okay, that's good to know. I was just curious. You also would know that person because they would probably be sitting by themselves a lot.
I was
Well-
thinking that same thing. As he was saying, it was like, well,
You know
okay.
the person that ate the raw garlic. And
Yeah.
Well, and that's, a reason where, the fire cider can be best, when you're starting to feel something so that you're not just like stinking of garlic all the time, but, it really can help to like nip it in the
Well,
bud.
I think
And
it
actually,
really
I think
works,
when you
yeah.
got it, you would just come back from a flight and we're starting to really.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yes.
that's sort of when I start to feel something, I'll do it, and it clears it right away. I mean, it's unbelievably effective. You wouldn't think it, but it's better than like cough syrup or cough medicine or anything like
Yeah,
that.
and I mean, it's just all simple ingredients,
Yeah,
it's safe for basically anybody, so, that's a nice feature as well. And I mean, those constituents also have good cardiovascular benefits as well as kind of like a nice little side benefit. And it's warming for this time of year, it's,
Yeah.
increasing the circulation, which is always a good thing.
And it's fairly easy for people to make their own, correct?
Oh yeah, it's a great home remedy. I mean, it's anyone who can take the time to just basically simply mashing up the onions and garlic and horseradish and soaking them in vinegar and then straining it and sweetening it to taste or not, depending on your preferences, and Yeah, so it's a pretty
And I guess that's another key issue, is that you can make it the way you like it. I mean,
Right.
to a lot, if it's too hot or if it's too, because Ken was in the other day, remember, and he was talking about
his
his
daughter's
daughter
making
makes
it.
it.
She makes it red
And she
hot.
makes it red hot. And he said, well, I really like it, but it's really hot.
yeah, like, and so when I make it, I try to make it as appealing to as broad a range of
Yeah,
palates as
yeah,
possible.
yeah.
And like, I found over time that I end up using less garlic and more onion, because the onion is actually fairly mild in the flavor, whereas
yeah.
the garlic, it's kind of easy to overpower it.
Yeah.
And then I put in like about half as much ginger as the onion and garlic components, and I think the horseradish is really key, because like anyone that, like if you take a smell of horseradish and you can
Yeah.
just feel your sinuses opening up and stuff, and even though it has those properties, doesn't create that strong of a flavor. But I try to go pretty light on the hot peppers and just have a nice little bite, but not.
Yeah.
But
But that's another one of the, it's like, it's a personal
It's a personal
preference,
thing, and that's
but
the
it's
awesome
also
thing if you
a
make it
high
at home.
Vitamin C, the capsaicin and everything else really clear, like you said, it clears everything
Right,
out.
and if you're making it at home, you can also add anything that floats your boat. Like some people put citrus into
Oh, really?
them, or you could even add other herbs like echinacea if you wanted. There's really, and it's a kitchen remedy. Another favorite kitchen remedy I have for colds and flus is ginger and thyme tea when you're starting to feel
really?
like you're coming down
Yeah.
with something. And the ginger has that warming and circulation enhancing property, and the thyme is strongly antimicrobial, and it's another thing that gets into the bloodstream and then gets exhaled out the lungs, so helps to kill microbes in the lungs. And even though that sounds kind of weird, it's like, is that pizza, or the flavor, especially sweetened with a little honey, is actually quite good. And I'll usually use fresh ginger, but you can use just dry ginger, and with thyme, you can either use the dry, or you often can get those little clamshells of fresh thyme, like in the fresh herb section.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's one that you can pretty much take off the shelf in your cupboard if you're starting to feel sick, and
just make it.
and make
Yeah,
something
yeah.
and it's just soothing to just have like large quantities of a nice warm beverage.
Yeah,
It's
and then-
soothing as
and
well.
it's also
So
hydrate.
it's a great, like, real easy. Anyone can do it.
Did you add lemon to that too?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Just
And you
to
could add a
balance
little
out.
cayenne if you like spice a lot. You could add a little, a pinch or two of cayenne to it too.
So there's lots of things that you can, like you just hit upon it. What struck me is in your kitchen cabinet, lots of things that you can find. that you
Right,
can make,
yeah, and I think
which
that's
is-
fun,
yeah.
and it's accessible, because it's like everyone's got some spices in their kitchen cabinet, or you can go to almost any store and get those spices, as opposed to needing a specialty herb or something like that.
Do you have, I know you talk a lot about your immune health and related to your gut health.
Yeah.
Is there, this time of year, are there really more specific things to do for gut health?
Well, I
Is that
mean, one that's a good one for this time of year is cutting sugar. After the typical sugar binge of the holidays and stuff, sugar creates gut inflammation. It also kind of tends to displace more nutritive substances in the diet, because sugar is just straight calories, but there's absolutely no minerals, no vitamins along with it. So the more sugar that's being consumed, the less likely you are to be eating whole foods that have other nutrients in them. And another big one in our modern diets is these polyunsaturated vegetable oils. Things like soy oil being one of the biggest ones, and it's not necessarily oils that we just like buy, a thing of Weston oil to use for cooking, but that are used in a lot of processed foods, like the chips and the crackers and stuff. They use a lot of these oils, and those are really relatively new to the diet and highly inflammatory. This is part of why we hear so much about omega-3 fatty acids, is that they balance these omega-6s that are in these polyunsaturated oils.
Yeah.
But ideally, if you just don't if you take in much fewer of those omega-6s, you're gonna need fewer omega-3s, but it's going to bring down the inflammatory load in the body. And a lot of the immune system gut interaction is that when we get inflammation in the gut, there's these what are called tight junctions between the cells that keep things out, because the gut is our biggest place where, it's unlike the skin where we want to basically keep everything out. In the gut, we have to let some stuff in or else we die.
Right,
So
yeah.
our bodies have to figure out like what's good and what's bad constantly. And when these junctions between the cells get inflamed, it allows bigger chunks in that aren't screened as well. And that's, the origins of autoimmunity are not well elucidated, but seems to be a big component of it is this quote unquote leaky gut syndrome, where
Interesting.
various chunks, instead of like proteins are usually broken down all the way to amino acids before we absorb them. But if we get these chunks of proteins or amino acid strings that are getting into the bloodstream, when our immune system sees those in the bloodstream, they look like invaders, possible pathogens. And that's where, we then make an antibody to it. And if that antibody also happens to latch onto a part of our own anatomy, that's where we get something like rheumatoid arthritis, where we're making these antibodies that also happen to, fit right on in the joints. And that process can play out in a lot of different ways, like Hashimoto's, where it's related to the thyroid. And so the common denominator seems to be inflammation in the gut. And
And that's tied directly back to diet, which is sort of insidious because, the food companies change how food is composed to make it more palatable or make us want it.
Right.
And then also to make it last, to make it
And to make it
stay
cheap.
preserved and cheap.
And that's also where some of our food recommendations have largely been shaped by industry, like this food pyramid of have all these grains at the bottom. Processed, cereals and crackers and stuff can sit on the shelf for years. So they can put pennies in and they get dollars out and they don't have to.
And we're getting no nutrient content in
Or we're
those
getting
types of foods and
damaging
possible,
nuts.
Right, so it's that idea of being overnourished but underfed. Like we've got more calories than we need, but we have fewer nutrients than we need, which, sets up various, hunger signaling where, it's like, who can just have one chip? You end up eating half the bag. There's that like, addictive component. They're not satiating at all. They're just, it's very
it's like you want
good on the taste buds. And, so that's a huge thing because, industry, there's a lot of money at stake. And so that's a big part of, why like dietitians and nutritionists, a lot of them, they were schooled on, but in like big food, like taught them how to practice nutrition and things like the ketogenic diet where it's, whole foods that have more value and less profitability. That's,
scary
to them because the more people that are eating less processed, that's money out of their pockets. So, that's definitely a huge thing.
Yeah.
So that would be a recommendation for New Year's resolutions to really look at going back to whole foods because I think people get away from the holiday time. That's when you're at parties with chips and crackers
chips and dips
all those
and all
things.
these crackers and
it does become addictive. So if you can
try to look for foods that are in a relative that you can see what it is, a chicken leg or a tomato, and another like another simple one is like don't drink sugar. Any beverages that are sugar sweetened and stuff, if you like just cutting that out the average American gets 20 or 30% of their calories from sugar. Like that's obscene, and a huge increase from 100 years ago. And that's one of the biggest changes in food consumption that we've had is
drinking our calories.
Or just sugar consumption in general, but that's a very easy way to, a can of Coke doesn't seem like it's got an ounce or two of sugar, but it dissolves. So it's like it's an easy way to hide it, and an easy way to not even think about consuming it. And I think it also kind of messes with our satiety because it's not like we're made to drink water. It's a beverage, not a food, so it doesn't even feel like it. Should fill you up, kind of thing. I don't. It's
interesting.
But yeah, definitely looking, just kind of looking at diet and maybe, reworking that a little bit. Interestingly, like the big soda and snack food companies are behind like the whole focus on exercise only and pretend that like what you eat doesn't matter, because of course they don't want you to think that the Coke and the French fries are making you fat. You know, it's just
That you can exercise them off. You can still
Yeah.
have them. You can earn them. And you can exercise
right.
them.
Like you can't outrun a bad diet kind of idea. Like
Right.
You know,
Yeah, right. I like that. That's
Yeah.
great.
Well, that's
Sort of
kind
that previewing. I
well,
was just thinking of what we were talking
What
about.
we just did at the gym is we did the holiday burn and earn. So people there's calorie values for differing foods around the holidays, and you could earn your food by how many calories you burned. And one comment that I got from one of our clients was she thought because she worked out, she could eat anything she wanted. And that connection with how many calories and how much work it really took to earn that hot chocolate sticker,
earn not
or
that
that
much.
glass of wine
Yeah.
sticker, or that cranberry sauce sticker.
She
The
was
calorie value. She
totally-
was blown away.
well, because I mean, I know I've been in that mindset in the past of like, you just got done with a good hour workout or something. Now you're hungry, and it's like,
You have
oh,
a big
well,
meal.
Nice
I earned it. I can eat whatever. And you can blow that
Mhm.
calorie
You can undo all of that good.
In just a very little time.
in a heartbeat. Yeah, because it takes a lot longer to burn those calories than we actually think.
Up, and the clock on the wall.
The clock on the wall. Whoops.
We don't have a clock on the wall anymore. Just saying.
We don't.
Alex sold it.
We now have a little kitchen timer. So, thanks, Justin, for those
Yeah,
tips.
thank you.
To fire cider and vitamin D. That's the one I've been trying to stick with the most. And also look at your diet and really see if you can improve your diet. So we next week on the feed, we're not sure.
Yeah, we're not sure. But before we close, we wanted to put Justin's information up because he's one of our best guests, and he always has an amazing amount of information. And if you want to tap into that information, you should contact him at Sweet Flag Medicinals. He's there for you, and he's really helpful, and you should look into that.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for
Yeah.
having me on.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. And that's it for the feed this week. We'll see you,
See you
when
next week.
Yeah. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it, folks, for the feed. Be sure to catch us every Wednesdays at 7:30 a.m. Also, find us on Facebook at Fact TV or tell us what you think. thefeed8@gmail.com. And don't forget to watch the feed online at www.fact8.com.